I've discovered I have no idea how to start videos off. I need to improve on that. So, this week I'm going to be listing the top 10 last books of a series, because the last book is really important in a series because it wraps everything up and it needs to have the reader feel closure and happiness yet sadness for what has happened and make them think that was a good series. It's a hamster, by the way. Who is making... Are you chewing on something, Georgia? Like, what are you eating? What are you doing? I don't know. Okay. So, number 10 of the last books in the series is The Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare. So it finishes up the Infernal Devices trilogy? I always get her trilogies mixed up. I just know it's the Clockwork one. Cassandra Clare does a great job of wrapping up the mystery of the enemy, villain type character, and the standing relationships between her characters. The reason why it's low on the list is probably because the epilogue was really long and was usually used to like make everybody in the fandom happy about the love triangle, which I didn't really care about. Whatever. It was still a great book anyways. Number 9 is The Last Battle from the Narnia series by C.S. Lewis. Basically, it ended Narnia, literally. Again, it did a great wrap-up of the characters, and it finished up the world, and it created this sense of how everything new must later die. The reason why it's low on the list is because I felt that the character Susan was left undeveloped throughout the entire series. She was so cool in like the first couple of books, and then when the siblings there kind of like left the series and their cousin took over, like their cousin's pretty great and everything, and then when they come back, Susan's notably not with them. And he kind of just throws her on a bus and leaves her. And I guess it was to show how teenage girls change when they get old. I don't really know what point he was trying to get, but I didn't like it. Again, great closure to the book, but I didn't feel was entirely what I wanted for Narnia. Number 8 is The Scribe Who Faced God, parts 1 and 2. I don't think a lot of people have heard about The Scribe Who Faced God. It is the last in the Book Girls series, which is by Mizuki Nomura, and it's a light novel series. And basically it follows the boy who is dealing with the suicide of his childhood crush best friend. The Scribe Who Faces God was, again, the ending, so it put together the main character and how he's surpassed and how he's changed so much from the first, and you definitely see that. And it focuses on the backstory of one of the prominent female protagonists. I loved, again, like the feeling of closure and how the characters kind of had their happy, bittersweet endings to themselves. I found the last, like, epilogue a bit adorable but creepy at the same time. And I'm not really sure how to elaborate further into why I think that, because Maddie still has to read the books and I'm not spoiling anything. Number 7 on my list is The Death Cure by James Dashner of the last book of the Maze Runner trilogy. The Death Cure basically finishes up all of the reasoning. It develops the characters further. It kills off more characters. Yay. It basically, like, Death Cure basically answered all of the questions you still had. Number 6 on my list is The Shadow Throne by Jennifer Nielsen, and it is the last in the trilogy The Ascendants. And it basically, the trilogy follows the story of a boy king, and The Shadow Throne still has that charm to it that was in the first book, and the tricks and the spins, and just keeps me turning each page. What's the turn of phrase? Grip to the very end. The 5th book is Ever Found by Neil Shusterman, and it is the last in the Skinjacker trilogy. It's a Neil Shusterman book. Obviously, it's great. The last book definitely develops a lot of the villain's character, of the main characters. It shows the relationship of all these characters splendidly. And it wraps everything up to this point where you're just like, yes, I like that series. And then we have the 4th book, which is Monsters of Men by Patrick Ness, and it's the last of the Chaos Walking trilogy. Basically, that one just wraps up the climax beautifully. It shows the complexity of the Spackle and protagonist himself. It basically ends the stories in a poetic sense where you're the readers themselves. So if the reader wants a happy ending, they'll see it as the happy ending. And if they don't, then they don't. The third book I have is The Surprise of Haruhi Suzumiya. Some of you may not recognize that because, again, you may not read light novels. I don't really know what people do nowadays. Basically, Haruhi Suzumiya, the series follows the story of a high school boy who is stuck being friends with this really weird girl who wants to see aliens, time travelers, and espers, and therefore creates a club. The trick is that all of her club members are actually aliens, time travelers, and espers, but she doesn't know that, and the main character does. And basically, as a surprise for Haruhi Suzumiya, it finishes. What I like about Haruhi Suzumiya is how the author leaves their relationship, Haruhi and the character Kyon, because you never truly know if they will get together or if they're just really great friends. Basically, it wraps up all of the conflict that's been happening, and yet it doesn't. It leaves it open to probably some more adventures that could totally happen with this group. Second book on my list, Last Olympian by Rick Riordan of the Percy Jackson. Obviously, it's a great book because that's the wrap-up right there, and it fixes up with the characters and all the conflict that's been going on and ties it all neatly, nice in a bow, but it leaves it open so that more books can come. And number one of the last books of the series is The Deathly Hallows from the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. Harry Potter, again, it wraps up the conclusion splendidly. It creates the characters, it develops them. It basically shows this is what we've been working to for the entire time through all these years. And you can definitely compare it from the first book, which is like this thin, to the last book, which is like this big. Something like that. And the epilogue has to be my favorite part because it shows these characters grown up with their own family, and it's like, it's too cute, and you can just imagine the stories that would happen with their kids, and to think, what would it be like to be a child in the aftermath of this giant conflict with Voldemort and all that. So that's why it's number one. And that is my top 10 list of the final books in the series. Looking forward to your next video, Maddie. Jojo, what you doing? What you doing, Jojo? What you doing, Jojo?